Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode here on the Coach's Corner. Good evening, everybody. All right, happy to have everybody. Tonight we're doing video review with Sir Helga, and we also have His Grace Thorfinn joining us as well. We got a couple of guests that have just been kind enough to submit us some video for the show tonight. And as soon as they come on the video here, we will introduce them a little bit. So, like to say, as always, everyone is welcome to post comments in the live chat there on the Facebook. Go ahead and ask any questions you have. We'll try to get to them as best we can, but we do tend to kind of get wrapped up in the fighty part of this. So we will try to pay attention to that and answer the questions that we have, but we'll definitely welcome any comments you might have. And if we don't get to your question tonight, then we will definitely go back through the feed and take a look at those later and get back to you on those. So, so a couple of basic housekeeping items for how we do this. As we mentioned to our guests tonight, so we're doing video review to try to help these people find a good path forward for their fighting. We all tend to view this from a viewpoint of isolating and eliminating deficiencies. So we're going to be looking at the fight from a point of failure and finding out what's wrong with the fight so that we can ideally give them some corrections to make so they can go back to practice and start working on these things. But it is important to note that we are doing this absolutely in the best interest of their fighting. We are not here to tell these people that they're just awful fighters and embarrass them or anything like that. That is not at all the point of this. But we understand that we learn more from our failures and we do our successes, and that's the viewpoint that we're coming from. And above all else, we would like to thank our guests for submitting the video and putting themselves out there, because it takes a lot of courage to have some of the best analysts in the world picking apart your fighting and telling you what's wrong and how to fix it. So, Helga, would you like to cover anything I might have missed there?
We encourage our guests to stop or basically hit the pause button for us so we can answer any questions. We'll do the same thing as there's a term that we use, because the three of us have a slightly different language. If there's a term we use, ask in the chat so we can then address that either later or during the show, so we can just make that pool of knowledge deeper. And again, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us.
All right, Thorfinn, you got anything? Cricket, blink. Thorfinn? Is he asleep? Thorfinn?
He sort of waved at you, Sean.
All right, I guess he's good then. All right, perfect. All right, so we have a couple of guests tonight. We have Her Excellency Vesta from Antir and His Excellency Kalbardr from Meridies. So Vesta, would you be kind enough to introduce yourself first?
Like His Grace said, my name is Vesta. I'm from Antir, in the southern part of Antir, Principality of the Summits. I've been in heavy armor since 97, 98, with a couple of breaks due to injury. One, I had some shoulder therapy, and the other, I had an ACL replacement and meniscus repair. And that was 2014 or so. My primary weapon style is sword and shield, although sword and dagger is something I used to do quite a lot of, but I'm not quite as energetic anymore. Right now, what I'm working on is my footwork got really smashed with my knee surgery, and I found that I'm favoring and protecting that knee by doing a lot of really bad behaviors, and so that's something I'm looking at.
All right, and Cal?
Good evening, all, and thank you, Your Majesty, Your Graces, for having me on. I am Baron Kalbardr Geiler from the Barony of the Osprey on the southern coast of Meridies. Fought for 2 years, took about 10 years off, and been back a year pre-pandemic, and then back fighting for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months now. Primary weapon style is sword in Madu because I suck with a shield, apparently. I ended up wearing it as a hat, so I said, you know what, scrap that. We're going to try something different. And I got the Artemisian infection, so I brought that back to Meridies. Currently working on just figuring out how to use that. So I guess I've been 5 weeks now, or five sort of 5 solid weekends with the Madu. So it's a new thing. So I'm really interested to see what I'm doing wrong early on here. Already got some interesting advice from His Grace Timur, and made some adjustments there, and we'll see how many of them stick. I'll be curious to hear his thoughts later on this too as well. So thanks for having me on.
All righty then. Cool. So I guess we're going to get started. Looks like we've got Cal. We've got you up first. How about that?
Can anyone hear me right now?
Here, we can hear you. Yeah, you're back.
It's not a show without one tech problem.
It
yeah.
just suddenly just turned off on me for no fucking reason. So good times. Good times.
Right on.
Your entire commentary via like sign language, Thorfinn. You got this.
All right. Let's see. Kind of scale this down a little bit, and then I've got to do that. That just moves. Gotta resize. All right, let me see if I can find the option to optimize for clip. We're going to try that to start with this time. Hopefully that'll go a little bit better for us. All right, we'll see how this goes here. So, all right, so this is all from regional fighter practice this weekend. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, so got to pause on that there.
I would like to note the pause was right where he just wore his Madu like a hat. So
Oh yeah, we can go back to
imagine
that.
that is a 30-inch round. It looks the same. Works great.
Do you want to go back and look at some more of that one, or you want to keep going?
Or why don't we watch a couple and then we'll go back to, because they're all probably going to have pretty good examples we can pick and choose.
A common theme you'll notice in this, I get hit in the arm a lot this weekend.
You get that body hand, that mighty arm taken a lot.
Both of them actually.
Okay.
It seems to be pretty common. That was when he was on his knees, I forgot to adjust my angle, so I noticed it after. I was like, well, that was stupid.
That's right. Y'all can get super close there.
Yeah,
That is making me so head tilty. Like,
You see, in some of the Western kingdoms,
That's
you
your
stand
culture.
right on top of somebody. This is going to be a
That's your
problem.
culture talking, Helga. That's your culture talking.
I mean, my culture is just telling me to hit him in the dick right there. Okay.
well, and you can. So yeah, the rule is as long as we don't cross their 180-degree plane, we can be on top of them, just not past them.
Okay, 180-degree plane off the knees or the hips?
Hips.
I think he's talking about being behind them.
Yeah, as long as we don't cross their hips and shoulder line past them.
That's Seabass.
That is Seabass. He's a fun fight. I really enjoyed fighting him.
Yeah, he is.
He gave me some really good comments afterwards. He actually stopped my fight. So this is Harold. Seabass came out and stopped my fight with him, and was like, all right, he's killing you with footwork. And I was like, I don't think I'm doing that, but okay, cool, thanks. Like, there was a question that shot bounced off my basket and into my chest, but it just clipped it hit the basket first. So that's what that question was.
Right. Nice. All right, I think I got enough. You guys want to see any of that again?
So let's go back to the first fight, because the first fight actually shows a lot of what's pretty consistent error-wise that I was seeing.
Yeah. Is the video seems to be coming across okay, right?
Yeah. For the first time, we're not having a straight out the gate video problem.
Optimized for video clip.
Man.
Finally found a setting that works. After a year.
Yeah, right. You're new to the Madi, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I first time I fought with it was weekend on Artemisia, and so it's 4 or
Pause
5
right there, Sean.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
I was looking at comments and back it up.
Back it up just a little bit, would you?
Hang on just a second here.
Okay, yeah, right there is perfect. Just stay right there.
Okay.
You are not armed here. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah. So His Highness actually asked me the exact same thing, and I couldn't figure out where to put it. This is one of my very first fights of the day, and I when I got legged, I was like, shit, what do I do with this thing now?
All right. So this behavior shows up while you're standing too. This is actually the consistent. This is the first thing I'm going to fixate on. I'm actually going to ride Thorfinn's ride here real quick and just say, that blocking thing that you have is completely in the wrong place almost all the time.
Accurate.
And so this is one of this, but this is a very good example of you're wearing. You mentioned beforehand that you were wearing your hat as a shield, and now you're just throwing your blocking hand away. And I know that you're new with the tool, but also we should probably put the tools where they're useful, because you are not going to short stab him from this position at all. You're basically single stick fighting.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that this is a lack of form, and I don't mean this in a negative way. You haven't been exposed to the correct form. The form should be you're using this as a blocking weapon, right, with a couple attack options, right? But if right now you're not even using it at all, so form should be higher, maybe a kind of like a zone style defense. So unlike a cone defense or other type of shield defenses where you do deflection or whatever, this one is more of a zone. So you're covering areas, right? So the stick should be through the area that you think or you feel that the opponent is going to attack. The way you presented it is that as if they weren't going to attack at all. So if you're going to not have a shield, this right here stance is probably the worst option. Okay. So
Yeah,
if you were to put it even diagonally through your opponent's zone, you would have covered probably half your targets on your body.
Yeah, and so what I'm saying with this is where you have that when you're talking about not knowing where, you don't know where where it should be, right? You are completely inverted for where you should be.
Right.
You've got the top point kind of pointed at him, but you should absolutely just pull that butt spike up, that bottom point, and almost pointing it straight at them, because you have got to be threatening with that bottom point, because the advantage of that particular weapon is, part of it is the range, right? And so you have to be threatening with the longest offensive option that you have. So as far as where to have that, again, it's just you're completely inverted. Just pull that bottom point up, because I know it may feel like if you have it in your hand, if you were to hold it straight up and down, then yeah, the bottom point is going to be on the ground, and your hand is going to be higher up. But if you just pull that straight back and put that bottom point, just point it straight at them, now they have to account for that.
Yeah, they have to believe that's a real threat.
Right. Yeah. Because with that top spike, the way that it's sitting there, it's sitting on the ground. You really have no option to, have no offensive option with that. So that's one less thing that they have to account for. So basically, just all he has to worry about is the sword. But if you bring that bottom spike up and you just point it at them, it doesn't matter how good you are with the point control on that bottom point. The fact that it is there and in their face, they have to pay attention to it, and he is not going to be able to, because right now he's able to just walk in uncontested. Like he can totally manipulate the range, totally uncontested. He doesn't have to worry about that threat at all. So the other thing that I'm going to fixate on here is the sword mechanics thereafter.
Can I jump in real quick on the
Yes.
Madu thing real fast?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, before we go to sword mechanics, because yes, there's totally a thing there too. On the Madu mechanics, like not even looking at a thread, if you cut off both thrusting tips on that, here's a really interesting chunk of our game that we don't really talk about. A shield is not its width. A shield is its length. That's the reason why Madus are so effective, because it is very little to move your hand laterally as it is if you were moving it up and down.
Defense.
Yeah, your defense on that, your defense is made by the length of whatever you're holding. It's the reason why Madus are actually incredibly effective, because most of our shots, it takes away, you have to come in parallel to whatever they're defending with to land a blow. We don't come in perpendicular. So you have this huge shield basically in your hand. It's just very skinny. All you have to do is, again, put it in a spot where it bisects, basically crosses the T, and it stops their blow. And so that might be a different way of thinking about it. Instead of thinking of it as an offensive weapon, which it is, while you're getting used to it, you might actually want to think of it as a defensive. I'm just making the T. And look at your hand, and can you make a T against their blow where they are throwing? And that should actually get you to start thinking about it in the fight, to put your hand in a place where you don't have to move it to make that. Does that make sense?
It does. And that when I first was looking at it, that's what I did. I sort of just stick it in front of me, and that felt awkward. So I went to this because I started fighting with it on my side, because of some advice I got actually from Primer as an option. So I tried that, and then got advice later in practice. You'll see some of the later videos where it comes up to a different position. So I've noticed that, but definitely agree.
Yep. So bring that hand up. Helga, you want to take the stick mechanics? You want me to start in on that?
Your Majesty, I believe that is your trademark there, so I'll let you go first.
Yes, especially the recovery portion of this. So I'm going to go ahead and roll through the video here just a little bit. One thing you're going to notice when you're throwing these shots, once your stick gets out there, the sweet spot of your stick never goes back through your shoulders. Every shot you throw out of here is just all with the wrist and with the arm, and it's in front. You don't have any of the mechanics on this. So in order for you to get any of these shots off, ideally your hand is going to have to transition through your shoulder, but at the very least, the sweet spot of your stick has to rotate through your shoulders in order for you to get the rotation that you need to be able to hit any of these.
So what he's talking about, the sweet spot of your stick is about 4 to 6 inches off the top of your stick, right? This is going to be the part that has the highest impact, to your opponent. So you can feel, oftentimes, you can feel a recoil, like you just threw, right? But so the sweet spot of the sword is defined by the length of the sword, and
right.
So
it's the fat part of the bat in baseball terms, right?
Exactly right. Yeah,
it's the part of the stick that out on the tip of the sword you get range and you get speed, and down at the base of the tip you get power. But that sweet spot of the stick, like you said, for me, it's I tell people it's about a fist length down, and runs for about another fist length.
Yeah. 4 to 6
Um,
inches, yeah.
Yeah, and that is the part of the stick that gives you the best balance of speed, power, and range. Because you get a lot of power at the base of the stick, but you don't have any range. So what's the point of using a 3-foot stick if you're going to be right up on top of somebody to have to hit him with it? So that's the part that, like I said, it's fat part of the bat. That's what we hit home runs with, right? And that's the part of the stick. So you can, you can get the rotation that you need without having to pull your hand all the way back through your shoulder. But the sweet spot of the stick needs to get that 180 degrees of rotation in order to be able to kind of have the stick travel that it needs to be able to deliver a telling blow.
Right.
And so we're just going to back this up here so you can kind of see some more of what I'm talking about here.
One more.
And is there a reason that that's not coming back through your shoulder? Is this a defensive thing, or are you just trying to?
I would probably point out that I think that's a byproduct of him not knowing where his defense is at all, because this is a very typical response in single stick. When we're fighting single sword or single stick, is that hand comes forward as a defensive motion. The brain actually puts it there automatically. And I'm wondering if this problem will correct later on in the videos as he brings that Madu into play. So, and we start seeing that in the mid, like later on too. So I just wanted to pile in on that for a second.
Okay. Cal, did you have anything else on it? Does that sound about right, or is there something else coming into play there?
It is very much single sword mechanics. I'm basically going to saber fighting, keeping that the single body sword out stance idea in my head. Because if I can hit him in the face, it's enough. All I gotta do is make contact and it's dead. That's the goal in my head. That is a very limited, obviously, attack point. So
yeah. Sean, I would bet you $10 Sean knows where I'm going to go with this video.
Me too. I'm sure.
I mean, there's the chasing your opponent. Yeah. Your weight is. We talked about this earlier. Your weight is all on your back foot.
Yep.
So
I'm going to go ahead and back this up here.
Where I'm going to start with this is go ahead. Can you back up just a little bit to where he gets armed?
Back up to the beginning here.
Yeah. This is going to be one of my most basic things that I tend to harp on.
So, and again, right off the bat here, we're going to see the two things we talked about where you have your Madu just at your side. You're not threatening the bottom point at all. And then as you come forward into this, your stick mechanics are all right in front. There's no recovery on them.
Punk him in the leg.
Oh, geez, that hurt.
Okay, pause right. Yeah, actually, like almost any of the sequence works. All right, so this is where I'm going to jump in for a moment and say, this is a very simple thing is we don't face the body of our opponent, we face the threat. This is the reason why you're losing your arms. Because basically you are putting your hands directly at your opponent. One, they're too close anyway, so you have to move your hands out to create a zone of where they're going to throw through. Right now, basically, you've got your elbows parked out, which means for the quickest, fastest shot that I could throw off my shoulder, I can punk you in the elbow. But one of the things that you are doing is you are directly facing your opponent. This is something that we see with a lot of people that do a ton of Pell practice, and especially as they're developing in their fight, is we face the Pell because we think we need to hit the Pell. You actually need to face what we call the threat. What is going to kill you? Hand. Because if you control the hand, the elbow and the shoulder, the elbow can't lie, the shoulder and the hand can. If you are facing basically the median point between these two, you're actually controlling their shortest, fastest line. And this does not involve like taking yourself and completely turning yourself towards it. It is literally like a 10-degree shift to make this control happen. This is gonna save your arm, dude. This is really gonna save your arm, because right now you are coming in like direct line. The closer you get to the opponent, the closer your hands get, and then you push them forward. You are giving them your arms for free. Also, the other thing that this is doing is, I'm going to point out for everybody else in the audience, he has some very, very classic signs. There was some conversation that happened behind the scenes. He has some very classic signs showing up right now. Oh, actually, Cal, can I use you as an example for the audience, please?
Yeah.
Sorry, I should have asked permission before just doing this. For the audience out there, Cal is actually exhibiting classic signs of somebody that was much heavier, that is now fighting much lighter, that has not redeveloped true body mechanics. We can see this because he's hand heavy and he's really back on his heel. So he's never actually learned how to generate power through his body. He has learned basically to hit somebody with his mass by just leaning in and out of the shots. This is the reason why we're seeing Cal start to fall in and out of the fights, is because he's never actually had to maintain his own body balance in it while throwing forward. So there's a lot more when you're a heavier fighter. There's a cheat. Your arm weighs more. Your upper body weighs more. So you can just throw that into it and get a telling blow. Versus now, because he is lighter, his body doesn't know how to generate the mechanics. So you see him, and you're going to see this repeatedly through the videos. You're going to see him throw himself into a shot, which he's going to overcommit and be head forward. His hands are going to come forward to counterbalance it. And then when he tries to escape, he's going to do the opposite. Everything's going to lean forward. He's going to get really on his back heel, and he's going to start falling out of the fight. And so this is something that is a really good example. And Cal, thank you very much for letting me use you for this, is when you start seeing this, this is a tell that somebody hasn't developed balance in their own body. They don't know their body. The first place I'd start with Cal is actually go walk around the house and poke door frames. Like, you need to do this with your hips over your feet. And then you're going to turn with your hips over your feet, and you're going to poke the wall behind you. So you can learn where your body is in balance and where it is out of balance.
Okay, Thorfinn, you got anything else on that?
I think Cal had a question there.
Okay, go ahead, Cal.
Yeah. Well, and you and I can follow up afterwards. The poking the door frames, I do not understand what you're getting at there. So
it's a common thing that we do. So we move through the world freely. If we don't actually, you see this with people that haven't ever, like, they've basically gone through life really healthy. You live in your body, but you don't know your body. And so you went from knowing one body to having a new body, and the new body actually doesn't know how to move through the world, but your brain has a bunch of old mechanics that it still is using, and it's getting you by. So if you start consciously doing things like walking through your house, reaching out and touching things, and then you stop when you've reached out and touched things, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm like leaning way hard to do this. Why am I doing this? And you make the corrections, you'll actually start seeing it in your fighting, because it's going to make you aware of your body for free. So you're not trying to dodge a stick or anything like that. You're literally touching a door frame. There's nobody trying to hit you, but you need to become more body aware.
gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Thorfinn, you had something else?
Yeah, there was a point where in that last freeze frame that you could literally see your hips behind your feet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you cannot generate power with your hips behind your feet, right? You have to be kind of grounded, and then everything transfers up to your body, right? So watching you do this kind of a thing where you come in and you're really using your blocking stick or attack stick. I don't know what it's called. Anyway, the idea is you're not presenting it to a zone that is actually really valid. Instead, you're just coming in like one hand down like this, and your opponent doesn't even have to address the fact that you have a blocking stick. They can attack you at will at this point. Okay, so present
Right.
a defense, or like Sean said earlier, an attack. Right, it has to be a valid threat. That's important.
Right. So we had some comments in the live stream thread there that I kind of want to point out, and we're going to get to the final three for each of us now. So with all of us as fighters, there are lots of problems, especially in the beginning stages of fighting. There are lots of problems. There are lots of things that need to be fixed. But as part of a process for improving your fight, you really can't fix all of the problems all at one time. So there's a comment, somebody asked about footwork and range. And my comment there was, yes, your footwork and range are a problem for Kalbardr as well. But the stick mechanics and where he's holding his Madu, those right now, to me, are the most important things to fix. And it's not that, there aren't improvements to be made in footwork and range. It's just that those are not the biggest problem right now. And once he makes improvements in the stick mechanics and where he's holding this, the footwork and range is going to be the next biggest deficiency. And then we're going to work on that and we're going to make that better. And then we're going to keep coming around to these things. And, as we've talked about on Coach's Corner a lot before, this process it's not just cyclical in that you keep coming back to the same thing, but as Grace Eliyahu often points out, it's helical, right? As you get better at the thing, you keep kind of coming back around to the same things, but now you're making more refinements on everything as you go. And it's better than it was, but now it needs that much more refinement, and it's the next thing that needs to be fixed. So I just wanted to kind of point that out as far as this is what the process is. Footwork is a problem. It's not the biggest problem right now. So we're going to work on these things first. And then each of us is, probably within 6 months, we're going to talk to Cal about how to improve his footwork there as well. So Helga, you want to give him your final 3 things to work on?
Yeah, I can do that. So final three things to work on is, one, we're going to start with body awareness. I literally want you to do dumb things around your house. Like, I want you to figure out when you're leaning, how it feels like in your body. I want you to do this on Pell, and I want you to do this in practice. And in practice, it's going to take more video because you're going to have to look at it because there's so many things going on. But if you can get yourself body aware, you're going to be able to start integrating these corrections quicker. Because when we don't know where our body is, we can take as many notes as we want. But it's not going to happen until we know we internally have to be able to feel the fix. So that's going to be my number 1. Number 2, I want you to start playing with your defense. Cross the T. Literally, if you have to chant cross the T at yourself and just kind of see where that hand wants to go to do it. The third one, face the threat, not your opponent, and see what that changes in your perception of the fight.
Wow, Thorfinn.
Okay, so I'm actually alive. Okay, so I'm gonna say focus on form. Number 1 is to learn how this weapon works. Okay, so zone wise or whatever. The next would be power generation. A lot of your blows I see are thrown from a very long out arm type of stance. Very hard to do that. And then after that is threat recognition. Threat recognition would maybe you taking time to actually focus on, again, shield or your blocking stick. Okay, that's it.
All right. So Cal, for me, it's going to be Helga gave you her pet peeve, which is facing the threat. I'm going to give you my pet peeve, which is recovery. And that usually is offensive recovery, which kind of goes to what Thorfinn was talking about as far as power generation. In my estimation, offensive recovery is the single greatest failing in our sport. It's the thing that people fail to do most frequently. And if you focus on fixing the recovery and making sure that your hand is always in a good position to throw better mechanics. So every shot you throw, your stick is going to go back to your shoulder or wherever your starting position is. Right, it's going to get back to that starting position so that every shot that you throw has better mechanics on it or has the same potential from a mechanics perspective. Making sure that the sweet spot of your stick gets that rotation through your shoulders, because if you can get 180 degrees of rotation on your stick and you can hit perpendicular to the surface that you're striking, that's going to deliver a telling blow. And you can see this right here in the video where it's all just kind of out there in the front. You get maybe 90 degrees if you're lucky. So recovery is the big thing. The other thing is using the Madu, using that bottom point as your primary threat. It is your longest threat. It is your most significant threat. It's the primary for that particular weapon system, is people knowing that they have to traverse that portion of the range. They have to get past that point. And right now you're letting them just kind of like wander in for free. So you have to make sure that every inch that they take to establish range is contested every time. And then, so I mean, it's mostly too, your footwork is going to be the next thing that comes into play. But I think your sword mechanics, getting the recovery on that, and you're getting that bottom point out there and using that. That's going to be those are going to be the big things to work on for now. So, do you have any questions about anything that we've covered? Were we flooding you with information? What do you got for us?
No, that's perfect. I took notes, and I definitely agree with all the commentary. Things I've already noticed and some clarifications for things that I was like, this doesn't feel right. And I think you guys put words to a lot of it. So I appreciate the time.
Cool, no problem. All right, Vesta, now that you've seen us hammer on poor Kalbardr there, you sure you don't want to run away?
No, I'm good.
You good? All right. All right, you ready to go then? Give me just a second to bring this up. Oops. All right, so this is also from this past weekend. This is like a regional fighter practice, and you're fighting His Excellency Roland.
Yes.
All right. So, and there's just a short clip of you, but I'm pretty sure this is enough for. I looked at it earlier, and I already know what I want to kind of cover with you.
Okay.
I think it's enough for what we need. All right, ready?
Yep.
Let me make sure. We're going to go through full speed first. There you go. All right, I think that's about it there. All right, Helga, what are you seeing there?
First question I have for you is, how big is the handle on your sword?
It's playing down a little bit, but not much. I have
I
very
can tell by how you fight.
Okay, I have very long hands, and so taking it down too much feels weird.
It may feel weird. I can tell you from everything you're doing, you're death gripping your sword. And one way that we can tell that I can tell that you're death gripping your sword is almost all of your shots, after they break 90 degrees in your elbow, turn flat.
Huh. Okay.
Which means you're typically closing your hand too hard around your sword to keep control of it. This is a very normal thing to happen when you feel like you're trying to, when your hand closes and you throw a flat snap. As soon as you raise it up, see my knuckles start turning over to make the height, which pushes it flat. Same with the offsides. And so this is a really weird nuanced thing. It also is not allowing the tip snap in your blows. You see your blows end, and there's no release in your shots right now. And this is pretty consistent all the way through, which is also hard stopping your shots. So you're killing the flow of the fight because your hand is never relaxing. You can never easily regather your stick. Apparently, I'm now taking over Sean's thing of recovery here. And it's very obvious that you are forcing your recovery. You're forcing your shots. And in this, the offsides, it was very obvious the offsides are flat. And so one of the things that I'm going to recommend, especially with you getting video of your fights in the next couple months, is high vis tape your swords so you can call yourself out on it. Okay. And that's always the hardest call out, because I never want to be like, oh man, all you're throwing is flat. It's because you are forcing and closing your hand too hard, your shots are rolling flat. And I have a feeling that if you plane down your handle to where you can actually manipulate it with your fingers, you're going to start being able to let it go and know that you can gather it back up in your hand, which is going to put you on edge again.
Okay.
All right, Thorfinn.
Yeah, I need to watch it again. I think I'm not finding her stance to be, and there. Okay, so
You want me to back it up somewhere?
I think recovery of your shield stance is actually maybe what's happening here. So give me a minute to
All right, I got, if you want, I can back this up if you want, Thorfinn. I got some stuff for her too, so I'll go ahead and back this up to the beginning and let that play out and let you watch it a little bit. All right, so a couple of things that I'm noticing that I think are related to what Helga was talking about with the kind of death grip on your sword. To me, the way that I see that manifest is I'm seeing a hesitance in your delivery. And it's all throughout the shot. And again, it may be because of the grip on your sword, and maybe because the handle may be too big, or because you're death gripping. But when you throw your shots, there's a hesitancy. Does that make sense?
You're going to have to explain that. Sorry. Or point it out where it's happening.
Let me see I'll see if we take a look right here. So I've got this down at quarter speed right now. You've seen the video right now, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's also related to, so one of the problems we find with some newer fighters is right now you are looking for a target zone that is gigantic, and you're not going to get that. And I can see that by the fact that you're in range and you're not throwing any shots, because you're not seeing the target that is big enough for you. And so basically what ends up happening is you're taking all of this time to convince yourself that you can't get to a target. Like you may be able to see it, or you're looking for a target zone that is like 6 to 10 inches big. But how much target do you need? Like bare minimum target do we need to be able to throw a shot? Like 1.25 inches, right?
Okay. So
when you see 1.25 inches of legal target, you should be throwing at it. And the important thing to understand here is, when you see that small of a target, you're not throwing at it because you convince yourself that you can't get to it, that it's not a big enough target and you're never going to be able to hit that shot, right? And we miss 100% of the shots we don't take, right? Mm-hmm. So what I want you to think about is frequency of blows, firing more frequently without worrying about whether or not you're actually going to get a kill on somebody. And what you're going to find is, as you fire more frequently, you're going to find that your mechanics are way better than you think they are. And you're actually going to be hitting a lot of these shots because you're not taking the time to convince yourself that you can't get to it. Does that make sense?
Actually, yeah.
Okay. So the frequency of blows that I'm looking for is at least once every 2 seconds, but not more than twice in 1 second. So I'm not talking about throwing a ton of shots, I'm not talking about, 60 shots in a minute. I'm talking about basically fire, recover, fire, recover. And it's just a
Okay.
constant flow. And again, you're not taking that time to convince yourself that you can't. You're going to find out your mechanics are a lot better than you think they are. And here's the other the way to think about this. If you recognize a valid target, an inch and a quarter a valid target, and you throw a good mechanic at a valid target, even if your opponent blocks that shot, it doesn't negate the fact that you threw a good mechanic at a valid target. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's what we call victory conditions, right? We have to recognize the success in the fact that I threw a good mechanic at a valid target. And if my opponent blocked it, they did their job right. I did my job right. And the more you throw at these less perfect targets, the smaller your target zone is going to become, the more faith you're going to have in your mechanics. And quite frankly, you're practicing those mechanics against live targets. Because we can do all the pell work in the world, but until we're actually throwing this at somebody who is trying to block what we're doing, you don't know how it's going to work. And you don't know about the adjustments you're going to have to make, against compared to the pell, which isn't trying to block anything, right?
Right.
So yeah, if you throw a valid mechanic at a good target and you don't get a kill on that, you still did your job right. You still did the really important thing that you're supposed to do. So frequency of blows. And I think that's going to help a lot of the flow in that. And I'm going to go ahead and play this too, just a little bit more to see if I can kind of get to where I'm seeing this hesitance in your shots, because it's as you start throwing these things, like Helga was saying, there's not really a lot of flow to it. You don't have that snap to it. It's like you're putting them in the right general direction, but you're not really, it's like you're moving the whole stick without driving the sweet spot of the stick. Does that make sense?
I think when you point it out, it will become clear.
Okay, so let's roll through this. And again, now that I've mentioned it too, you're going to see where you get into range and you have an opportunity. And Roland is like, he's letting you do the fighting right now. He's giving you opportunities to throw things. He's not just giving you shots. He's going to block some stuff, but you're definitely in a range where you have the opportunity to throw shots and you're not. So you're going to see a little bit of that. But then when you start throwing these, I think you might also kind of see this hesitancy that I'm throwing. And again, it's a hesitancy in the delivery, like almost like you don't believe in the shot that you're throwing. Does that make sense? So let's see if we can take a look here and see if we can see that. Okay, so first off, oops. So this right here, I don't know if you're trying to throw a fake or if you start throwing one thing and decide to throw something else, but you're going to have this wind up. Let's see, is that the right one? So you kind of get this wind up, which sort of goes offside-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pull off on that and come back around to throw the flat snap. So were you trying to throw a fake on that one?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
There were a lot of fights yesterday, and I honestly don't remember.
Okay. So because the options here are either you were trying to throw a fake, which is a possibility, which I would say don't worry about right now, or you started into one thing and then you saw that get blocked, and so then you tried to turn it into something else. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's the sort of hesitancy that I'm talking about, where if you see offside head, if that's what you really want to throw, just throw that shot. Just take a shot at it, whether he blocks it or not, right? You start throwing into this, you kind of see that he turns that sword up, so he's going to have a block on this offside thing. And so now it's like, oh shit, he blocked the thing that I wanted to throw. So now I've got to turn this into something else. And when you do that, and like I said, like it's that believing in the shot that you're throwing, right? If when we talk about deciding which blows you're going to throw, that kind of gets into pre-programming. That's a totally different thing. We'll get to that later. But in this case, like I said, you're seeing the one thing, you're starting into that, and you bail on it because you end up not believing in it. So at some point, it's like just throw the shot, complete the recovery, throw the next shot, and just keep going after them. But you can kind of see there's all this decision making and all this, you keep changing it, and as you change each of those shots, the one you finally end up hitting is compromised because that's not what you were started throwing to begin with. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then that one too, not a lot of recovery on that. And then there's this hesitation here.
Hmm.
So that's one where you can see, let me see, back this up, see if we can see this a little bit better. Tell you what, I'm gonna do half speed on this. So when we're looking at video review, we've got, on YouTube, we can do quarter speed, and then we can use the arrow keys to give us frame by frame. Doing frame by frame gives us detail, but sometimes we need to do half speed to get context, because there's some of we need that full context to kind of see what's going on sometimes. So I've put this at half speed. I'm going to just kind of let this run and see how it goes. Can you see that kind of hesitance, the pause between each shot? Can you see that?
The hitch.
Yes, the hitch. Yes, absolutely. That's what I'm seeing. And each one of those is that hitch that you have in there is there is a certain decision-making process that's happening there, but there's a hitch in that decision-making process. You're not letting it flow. You're kind of, I don't know, it's almost like maybe you're seeing too much. And that that there's too much going on instead of kind of letting the stick flow from shot to shot to shot with that natural return path. Helga, I know I've been kind of monopolizing the time here, so I don't know if you got any other thoughts on that.
No, I think Thorfinn had a couple, and then I do also have some couple because I think I'm seeing this issue in a different way than you are.
Okay.
And so,
yeah, go ahead, Thorfinn.
Okay, so what I'm seeing is a lack of transference from footwork into power generation. Okay, so what I'm seeing is the fighter is coming in. They're oftentimes on their heel when they throw or on their back foot, right? You cannot be delivering a solid blow. Like right now, your defensive form is solid, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're continuously on your back foot. And so that's going to create a lack of power generation and also kind of blow options, right? So if you're in correct power generation, you can then flow to kind of anywhere the blow needs to go. So this is okay. I'm watching the video again.
Do you want me to back it up, Thorfinn? At any point?
I have to say, like, I like your initial form, like the initial contact form, like your shield stance is really good, right?
Okay.
But what happens is there's a breakdown after the initial blow, where you kind of freeze the shield, and then try to create another option. Okay, so it's going to happen right here. Watch. There it is. It's right there. It is. Bang. Right. So instead of actually opening up to the concept of your opponent is going to create the option for you, what you're doing is you're forming the. I hate to say this. It's like so I say fighting is jazz, right? So you're not allowing your person to be part of the jazz situation here. Instead, you are creating the whatever the moment is, right? So instead, I think that like with a right there, like I think that if you were to address it as you have a solid stance with maybe more of a based body form, like when I'm talking power generation, you would do better in this situation. So that's my assessment.
All right, Helga, did you have anything else?
All right, so to turn this back into like, hey, other video analysis out there or people that want to learn, I asked if I could use this fight as an example. And so we're going to kind of go over some general stuff. Also, Vesta, this would be a little bit of like, hey, these are my kind of final thoughts on this. I am agreeing with both Sean and Thorfinn, but we're going to talk about how we're seeing this a little bit because we're all seeing roughly the same issue from different angles. Thorfinn seeing the feet, Sean seeing it and how you're recovering. I'm seeing the death grip on the sword. One of the things when you're looking at a video like this and for your future, when you're doing video analysis for yourself, if you look at your fight, it is stilted. It is like one thing is happening, the next thing is happening, the next thing is happening. And also because of that, you can see that you are putting everything into each action. When you see a fighter that is like hammer throwing a leg shot or throwing that offside really hard and you're like, man, they're all in on that shot. That is actually a telling thing in a video to look for. That means that you are either not trusting your form, your weapons, or your feet, the three things we all hit on. And so this is one of those things that I think in the future, when you're watching videos, I actually want you to look for a little bit more flow. And this is where we're going to try to like bring in all the terminology all together for you in this is Thorfinn talks about flow and jazz. I was talking about death gripping. Sean was talking about needing to recover your stick. This all comes from if you are 100% committed into each action in a fight, you actually stop your own power generation because you start fighting your own body to make the next motion. It is like pumping the clutch while you're trying to get a car to go forward. So you're basically, you're stuttering through the fight and you can see it in the video. And so since the three of us have been talking about it, can you actually see where you're like, I've made a decision, I'm doing the thing. Now I must make the next decision. But because you've 100% committed to that one thing, you must now unload your body and get yourself back into free motion before you go to the next thing.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the thing that I would definitely look for in your videos. Cal, you can also look for this same issue in your videos because when you overcommit, you do the same thing. There's a pause in the fight for you literally to recover yourself physically to make the next motion. This speaks to calm down and relax in the fight a little bit because nothing that we do, no high-end fighter throws 100% of everything into everything. We throw enough to get a telling blow. And all that extra behind it, all that like, you can say 10% to 60% sometimes, goes towards the next action. It is free moving energy and a relaxation in our body that can then be committed to the next thing. It can go towards the next goal in motion. And so that's actually going to be my weird thing for you is you need to stop overcommitting to everything. And the first thing I think you need to do is check that sword handle, try cutting down the sword handle, and then let's get you not flat-footed and generating power freely without overcommitting. You're 100% the size that you can do this pretty freely without needing to throw every ounce of your body into it.
Okay.
Does that make sense and give you a way to look at this for future analyzation on yourself?
It does. It echoes things that other people have said, but in different ways that now make sense to me that didn't make sense before because the words they used weren't ones I understood.
Okay.
Excellent.
I don't know if that makes sense.
I love that part of what we do is the, like who says the like phrase that makes that connection. And
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. That's something we talk about on our episodes all the time is you can hear exactly the same thing from, several different sources, and you have to hear it from several different sources until you hear it in a way that your brain recognizes and understands what's going on. And it's not that the people who had said it before were wrong. It's just they weren't saying it in the way that your brain needs to hear it.
Yep.
And so, that's one of the things that we love about this thing in particular. So some of what Helga was talking about as far as the execution of your shots, when I talk about recovery as my pet peeve, but part of what I'm looking at here is, and what Helga was talking about is what I refer to as the natural return path.
Yeah.
Every shot you throw is going to have a natural return path. The natural return path of a blow is determined by how the blow impacts or does not impact. And, when she was talking about, when we throw one shot, being able to get to the next thing depends on how your opponent has blocked your shot. And I think what's happening with what Helga's talking about and what we're seeing here is, you're throwing the one, and you're not really following a natural return path on that. I think maybe you're trying to potentially either force a recovery or force the shot to go to a predetermined next shot, instead of allowing the shot to help suggest and guide you in where it wants to go. Because every shot you throw, depending on how your opponent blocks it, is going to have a recovery path. And if you follow that recovery path, that is often going to lead to the next most natural delivery path as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so this is where we kind of talk about throwing, and Helga kind of touched on this a little bit. Every shot you throw, like, I don't believe in combinations, right? I don't believe, because you get this 5-shot combination that you worked out on the Pell. Shot number 5 depends on you throwing shots 1 through 4 exactly as they worked out on the Pell, right? Now, there are things that I do that are individual shots that happen in rapid succession, and they look like it's a combination because they happen really fast. I know for me, it's not. I mean, I don't practice these things on a Pell. For me, it's natural return path. And in some cases, the only way that I can get the second or third shot is because of the way that the first shot impacted or did not impact, because I'm following that natural return path. And when I'm following that natural return path, yeah, it looks really fast because I'm following where the stick already wants to go. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if you think about this as throwing individual shots, right? You can throw individual shots in rapid succession that, but every shot you throw is dependent on what happened with the shot just prior to it. So I actually have a example of on my YouTube channel. I have an example of what I refer to as free flow Pell work, which is, we have, like, I have a Pell routine that I teach to begin with. There's the 1 through 6 Pell routine, which is fairly popular as well, which teaches you how to transition from any one blow to any next blow. The free form Pell work is just go to the Pell and throw for 30 seconds. And there is no correct next shot. There's no pattern to it. There's no, there's no right shot to throw. And all you're going to do is you're just going to throw at the Pell at fairly slow, minimal impact. You're just going to throw the stick and see where the stick wants to go after that. And this is something you can do to kind of get used to the idea of what that natural flow is and how to like I said, the 1 through 6 teaches you how to transition from any blow to any other blow. This is an extension of that, where you get to just throw and see where the stick wants to go and see what that natural arc is and that natural return path is going to be.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And I think that's just going to add to the flow of your fight a bit, which and when you add to that, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the share there. When you add to that the frequency of blows that we were talking about before, and again, it's yourself that you can't get to a particular shot, right? And some of that too is when you throw the one and then you're trying to get to the next one. If the one shot doesn't land, we have to get over that, right? You throw the one, it's like, I want this to be a really good shot. Well, it didn't land. He blocked it. Moving right along, right? Let's throw the next shot and see if we can make that one better. But I think sometimes you might be kind of getting caught up in, well, I really wanted this one to land, and well, shit, it didn't land. So now what? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so being able to throw individual shots as we say sometimes, every blow that you throw should be as important as if this was the last thing that you're going to do. Like, every shot has to be its own individual entity, and the shot that comes after that is determined by how that first shot lands or doesn't land, right? And once you throw that shot, whether it lands or not, even if it does land, you're moving on to the next thing. And if they don't call it fast enough and they expose targets, then they're just going to get hit a lot before they call good. And that's their problem, right? And for a lot of us, it's like, I don't care what shot you take because there's more coming. I'm just going to keep going until you fall over on the ground and you let us know that we're all done here. Because other than that, I'm not. And that's also something that kind of keeps you from getting too wrapped up in calibration as well. Because it's like, take what you want, because I'm just going to keep throwing. There's always going to be something. So does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right, Thorfinn, did you have just some final thoughts for Vesta? He will in a minute. Helga, you want to go first? I know you kind of covered some of it, but
So my final thoughts for you. Check your sword hilt, start playing with that. If you don't want to change your sword hilt, I recommend practicing some pel work where you're throwing with a loose hand and learn how to regather your stick. Because again, we want to see that snap at the end. And so I want you to start playing around with that and seeing how that works for you. 2, practice some flow of just, remember, each shot does not need to be end all be all. You need to have a way to move to the next one. This also goes for your footwork and your shield work. And 3rd one, relax in the fight. Like, this is one of those things where, like, again, it's that wound, I'm ready to go. Like, it doesn't look like you're panicking. It doesn't look like you're overly aggressive or anything else like that, but it always looks like you're kind of wound and loaded. Relax. See if you can see how lazy you can get in a fight and still be effective. And this is something that takes practice and time. And it's a really weird thing to tell somebody, like, you need to be lazier about how you fight. It's actually, you need to be a little bit more relaxed in the body on how to fight so you can be adaptable. Because if we're constantly wound, you have to unwind to then make the next change.
all right, now that Thorfinn's unmuted, your thoughts?
Oh, geez. Okay. So what I want to say is, from watching your videos, I think you need to transfer more to a kind of a foot forward like stance for power generation. Okay. So like horse stance, like something that is from ground to shoulder power generation, instead of being like it seemed to me that you were oftentimes on your heels. It's very hard for your body to generate those power and those blows when you're doing a heel like forward stance. Other than that, I like the idea that you're doing a very structured defensive stance. Stay focused on having control of that. That has to be a huge part of what you're doing. Other than that, I think you're doing pretty well.
All right. So my final thoughts on that are frequency of blows is going to be the big one.
Sure.
So firing more frequently, like I said, at least once every 2 seconds, not more than twice in 1 second. I actually have a drill that I teach for that is on the Coach's Corner page. It's the 2-second drill. It should be in the file section. I'll see if I can go over there and point that out. That will definitely help. And again, the big thing there is, you're just right now you're taking too much time to convince yourself that you can't do some of these things. There's a case later that I was going to show that where you're both fighting from your knees, and you kind of turn your hand over here like this because you wanted to throw the offside, and so you decided that you were going to throw the offside, and so now you're trying to force that thing to happen. And the target was just never there. And so you're just like, you're waiting for that thing to happen. And while you're waiting for that to happen, you can't see all the other targets that are available to you because you decided to throw that thing. And so that kind of also gets into, that's the flow of the fight, right? So frequency of blows, natural return path. Yeah, it's pretty much the 2 for now. So like I said, we don't want to flood you too much with too much information there. Yeah, I think those are the big highlights I have for you. So is that Gabe? Hey, Gabe. Hey, there's Daddy Bobby too. Sorry, Helga's got some visitors
okay.
popping in there.
I believe my dinner crew has arrived.
Oh, is that what it is? Right. So you got the Crown Prince of Artemisia hanging out in the background with you.
I would like to know the dude that effing smoked me in pickups yesterday just arrived.
I'm pleased to hear that the heir to our kingdom is doing just fine for himself.
smoke me.
All right, so sorry, Vesta, sorry to get derailed there a little bit.
It's okay.
So do you have any questions about anything that any of us has talked about tonight?
I was told yesterday after some of my fights that my posture was my stance was too upright, that I should be a little deeper into the stance.
I think
found
this
it
goes to what
hurts.
Thorfinn was. Yeah, I think it goes to what Thorfinn was talking about. Getting more on the balls of your feet. So because it looks like your weight is fairly evenly distributed instead of being on the balls of your feet and kind of having a sword forward stance. That's kind of what Thorfinn was talking about. I don't know if you want to.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I meant. Yeah. So yeah, do you know what horse stance is from like jiu-jitsu or karate or something like that?
I have observed it. Yes.
Okay, so what you want to do is you want to kind of hit the ground and kind of set yourself, but you also are mobile. That's the trick. Is it's not just nailed to the ground, it's mobile. Front of your toes, and then after that, everything will be fine.
So does that help based on what you were told yesterday as well?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
As I've tried more of the ball of my feet, and it's fine with the left leg, but this post-surgical leg is really unhappy with being on the ball of my foot. I end up with, and which is why I discovered I'm babying it when I'm fighting, because I can't rise up on it for a prolonged amount of time. So if there's anything in particular I could do to, I don't know, get around that issue.
So which leg did you have surgery on?
The right
And are you fighting with a right leg lead or a left leg lead?
leg lead.
So okay, so you're doing a sword leg lead, right?
Yes.
Honestly, that so one of my grand squires recently had a broken leg, and it was their sword leg, and so they decided, like, they found it more comfortable to fight with the sword leg lead, because a lot of times the back foot tends to be your driving foot, as far as where you're pushing off on to get your initial burst of power. So I'm generally, I mean, I fight sword leg lead, left, shield leg lead interchangeably, depending on the situation. So, but when I'm doing, and I think you took my stick mechanics class at Sport of Kings a couple of years ago. So you know that I don't use my hips for power. I just use my hips to get the stick moving, just to generate motion, right? So I can use either foot, and my hip rotation doesn't change my power at all, because that's not what I use it primarily for. So you may find it more comfortable being in the right leg lead. Had you typically been fighting right leg lead previously?
It was more squared up, except against lefties where I pull it back.
Okay. I would say try both. Try left leg lead, right leg, or left, shield leg, sword leg, whatever, and see which one is more comfortable. See which one puts less strain on your knees. Also, as you're throwing your shots, you're going to want to allow that that leg and that knee. You're going to want to allow that rotation to happen at your toes, so that you're not putting all of the strain strictly on the knee. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So as you throw a shot, you may need to kind of turn your toe out to allow that rotation. So you're not putting that torque at the knee. You're allowing that twist to happen at the foot. Does it make sense?
Okay. Yes.
Which is gonna pull some of that pressure off of the knee. I know.
I'm just going to point out that all body mechanics should do that anyways. You should never be twisting through the knee. Knee's not built to do it.
Right.
Like, I'll die on that fucking box right there. That's universal.
Yeah. So try to change out your lead leg and see which one puts less stress on your knee. And it sounds like it's fairly recent recovery on that knee surgery.
It was 2014, but
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Are you still having problems with it, or you just don't have any faith in it?
A little bit of both. I mean, the PT was very successful. It's just certain movements in fighting, and so I know I'm doing something wrong, and then I know I'm babying it so it doesn't happen again. And so, yeah,
It may very well be that you're trying to plant your toe and not allowing any pivot in your foot.
okay.
Is that something? Does that sound at all familiar?
It sounds like something I can look at. So
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, any other questions for you, Vesta?
no, thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
All righty. Well, I think we're gonna kind of wrap up here a little bit. Kalbardr, thank you as always. Happy to have you. Vesta, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate you guys being willing to come on and let us kind of pick apart your fights a little bit and show folks out there, some of the worst habits we have. And again, we've already had some comments in the live stream where people were saying that, I have exactly these problems that you guys are talking about. So hopefully we've been able to kind of help some other folks with this as well. Again, if you guys have any further questions later on down the line, feel free to ping us. For the folks watching at home, feel free to put some comments in the thread here, and we'll get back to those, or post your questions in the coach's corner as well. So, Helga, the show's got your name on it for a reason.
Yeah, so you can throw me under the bus like that.
That's right.
So I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for coming and joining us. It is not a small feat to have three nights look at your videos and be like, hey, by the way, here's the list, and then continue to do that. Again, it's the ruthless self-assessment. And remember that when you're going through this with yourself, when you're starting to watch videos of yourself, we always want to see like the super negative stuff that we're doing. We're like, man, this hasn't been fixed this practice. All data points. It's data points on the spreadsheet, so you can go make changes later. And just remember you can be ruthless in your assessment, but you still must be kind to yourself. And so again, just thank you guys so much for putting yourselves out there for us to analyze in a public forum and setting.
Right on. Thorfinn?
I want to say happy holidays to everybody and happy Yule. Let's look forward to another year of doing this starting in January. I'm so excited to be part of this process, and also very, very grateful for the people that are willing to put their fight videos up for us to look at. It's a tough road to hoe, and you know what? Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, I think Cal's going to give us a little plug here.
Yeah. So thank you again. Thank you, Your Majesty and Your Graces, for this and for all that you guys do for the known world. Coming up on Kalbardr's Corner, if anybody's interested, I'll have His Majesty Sean and some other guests joining me and Kisa.
Including Helga.
I wasn't sure if Helga's going to be there yet, so I wasn't going to throw her under the bus. Kisa. We'll be doing a Kalbardr's Corner KK Productions holiday special. And yes, it will be just as bad as the other ones you've seen. So check that out Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on Kalbardr's Corner. Come hang out.
All right. Looking forward to joining that.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, Cal, Vesta, again, thanks again. And thanks for everybody for watching at home. I really appreciate it. And we're going to be off for a couple of weeks here on Coach's Corner on Saturday, January 1st. We're going to be doing a special episode on, goals that we may have made at the beginning of the year and whether or not we've been able to hit those goals, or some obstacles that we've run into that may have kind of prevented us from hitting our goals. So we're going to look at that on January 1st, and call it the resolution episode if you'd like. So that'll be January 1st, but we're going to be off until then, enjoying the holidays. So everybody be safe out there. Happy holidays, happy solstice, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Keep rock and rolling your hearts.